What's up guys, FLOWSHIZZLE here, and today we're going to be ranking the controller agents on the map Bind. Now Bind is one of the original maps that came out that had a weird concept of the teleporters, and with controllers being one of the most important agents that dictates how well each of the sites can really be held and attacked, it's really important that we take a look at which one seems to have certain tendencies to be favored toward on the map and where certain agents might be a little weaker. Before we hop into the video, as always, hit the like button if you enjoy my content and subscribe if you want to see the series continued. Follow me on Twitch if you want to see any of my controller gameplay live. And let's get into it. Starting with number 4 on the worst agent I believe to play on Bind, that unfortunately comes out to my girl Astra. A lot of this is due to the fact that Astra just got heavily nerfed with 4 stars as well as like awfully long cooldowns. So let's just kind of go over it. We're going to start with the defending side and let's kind of describe how she would need to anchor on either of the sites. Although Astra can defend on either site, let's just picture she's defending B. You're going to need a smoke for both of the choke points, which means those are 2 stars that are gone, as well as a pole or a concuss outside of one of them. So that's 3 stars, leaving 1 star for the other half of the site. Now, because there's no mid on Bind, each site has 2 different angles that can be pushed, which means each site requires 2 different smokes. And because Astra's utility is just currently so limited with 4 stars, she has absolutely no leeway. She cannot stack. If she stacks one side with the utility required to defend the site, she leaves the other one almost completely exposed. So, like, let's just kind of picture it. If I have 2 smokes for here, and these are quite required to hold the B site. If you think about it, if one of these is not smoked, if I wanted to fight long, the only reasonable place to fight long from is from this right side. I can't swing along this side to fight long because hookah's unsmoked. And it's the same for long. If I don't have long smoked, I can't swing out this side to fight hookah because I will die trying to cross to this side. So that's why it really requires kind of 2 smokes that give this flexibility to fight between this, and anytime anyone jumps out, you'll have the ability to shoot them as they're jumping out while pivoting between the 2 sides. In terms of A, you can still throw this kind of one way with her smokes being so freaking big. It really covers everything, and you know, well, that is kind of great. But the issue kind of is you don't have that much stars to defend B if you kind of put the normal 2 here. You have 2 and then you want to put a pole, well then you have no smokes here. So unless you're just trying to play an agent that is able to smoke anything on contact, it's not super good. And while yeah, other agents only have 2 smokes, and basically what they'll do is they'll focus on the smoking the other side while getting information on this side, it's the issue is that she has no utility to help her fight. Omen has a flash, Brim has a stim, as well as a molly to delay. Viper has rechargeable gas that she can continually turn on and off. Astra doesn't have that, and as the round goes longer and longer, you'll find that she'll run out of utility faster. So with that being said, it's pretty easy to tell she's just not that great at anchoring. There's too many angles to defend, too much util required just for the basic smokes, essentially leaving wherever she isn't super weak. We're going to start a rating scale, and I give Astra a 4 out of 10 on defense. Now let's go for the attack. So let's imagine how would we want to execute on any of the sites. Well, before I would say sucks a stun and then have 2 smokes like this. And this is actually pretty cool because it'll smoke everything here, and then you can hit the concuss and the pole, and then you're out of utility. You won't have any smokes up, and that's kind of as strong as it gets. So in reality, you probably only want to use 1 pull or 1 stun, which is okay. It's usually, I'll say, good enough to take U-haul. But let's kind of imagine that's the ideal scenario where you don't get stalled out. If you happen to get stalled out, well, you're kind of screwed, especially if you pop the smokes. And if you popped any utility, you're just going to be super, super low on smokes. Okay, well, let's imagine how do I take space on the attacking side. Well, if I want to take showers, I normally want to put a star here to pull as my teammates are swinging showers. Makes it really easy. We can take showers for free. And then we'll be at 3 stars. Now, at 3 stars, let's question how do I really want to go about it. Well, okay, I could still throw my 2 smokes and stun. You have to play a little more carefully, as with 4 stars, you only get that 1 flex star, really, because you kind of want to save 2 smokes plus a pull for the site exec. So, essentially, you're just relying on that 1 star to get you some sort of map control. And, I mean, you can. It's just kind of very telegraphed. You pull one side and you want to take control of it. Well, they know that you have 3 stars that you're trying to save for the site exec. Later on, can work. Don't like it that much. I don't like how I feel like literally after I pull early for showers, for example. After that, I don't really want to use any utility, and I'm pretty much playing vanilla CSGO. This is the save for going to any site. If you want to take hookah, if you want to take long, you have 1 star to commit and then 3 stars to save. You could use your 2 stars. You'll only be able to smoke for the rest of the site. After that, it's doable. You kind of just have to rely on the fact that you're aiming or your teammates are trading positively. You can't ever use any star out of precaution or, you know, just as a default star. So I used to be able to just pull outside of garden just to make sure there's no aggro push here and allow my teammates to scale up. I'm gonna be heavily enticed not to do it anymore because I'm just gonna run out of stars. Attack side is better because obviously you can focus all 4 of your stars toward one site. Only slightly though. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 on the attack. And for number 3 comes Viper. Now, before everyone starts being upset, Viper is played on Bind actually quite a lot, especially at the pro level, but with the caveat that it's usually run as double controller, usually with some sort of Brimstone now or Astra before as the primary smoker, and Viper would be that secondary that gives that a lurking potential as well as a hard sentinel role almost on the defense. I have seen Viper being played on Bind as solo controller. I do think it is quite hard. And if you're a Viper main, I could see it happening. And I actually do believe that if you're good enough, you can make it work. Now let's kind of look at her ability to anchor on the defense side. And it's in general just really strong. So on the A side, she has her one way. That's great. Viper has always been super strong on the defense because of the fact, well, if you don't hit within the window where Viper gas is down, you're going to have to, well, run through Viper gas. No one really wants to do that. On top with the 2 mollies, she can really stall an area heavily. Throwing a default wall for showers is something that kind of pros end up doing and using it to lurk as well as defend showers quite easily. Having a sort of diagonal wall like this allows you to kind of hold showers as well as acting as a pseudo wall for this. And especially on eco rounds, if you do it enough, you can use it to kind of lurk out if you position the wall right. Defending A is pretty solid. You can drop mollies to stop post plant, hold U-haul pretty easily with just a molly. And as well as her ult is just in general really strong. Defending B is also really great. You just have an orb, something like this. You can even throw a wall like this, and you're just going to be able to defend both pretty easily. Viper's defense is pretty solid, and there's not really a reason not to run her on the defense. I'm going to give her defense a 9 out of 10. Now, as for the attacking side, if we're going off of the basis that it is single controller, this is where Viper kind of falls off. You can't get away with it, but let's imagine trying to hit B. You normally want some sort of wall toward elbow, as there's not really a good wall you could throw that blocks off CT spawn. So you would want the wall to cover elbow, probably something as simple as this. There's obviously better. And then some sort of orb for CTs. There is one up here, and you know, that's great. And it's, you know, it's not even a one-way because it's actually bigger than it used to be. But yeah, this gets you on the B site. And that's not really the issue. The issue really comes with the fact that she doesn't have any way to play flexibly. And I feel like once you have this sort of setup, once you start getting in the higher ranks where fakes are more prominent and you're kind of required to be more flexible in your playstyle, Viper is really going to come back and bite you, as you can't do that. You throw up your wall, that's a tell. You throw your orb, well, if you throw it here, you can't get it back. It's too far away. So you don't really have any way of playing flexibly. So on the attack side, while her mollies are still great utility for taking space, I don't like the fact that especially in ranked where you need to be self-sufficient, you have no way of applying that to your team, and you're just relying that on the first hit, you guys are just taking site. It's not that her attacking side is weak, it's that she doesn't give you options. And just because of that, I think it's a 5 out of 10. But I will add this little extra part where if you already have a primary controller, and in this case, I'm usually referring to Brimstone or Omen, Astra would actually be also beneficial now because you have that secondary controller to make up for the gaps that she has. Then I would say Viper probably gets bumped up to an 8 or a 9 because of the flexibility gaps that Viper has would be covered, making Viper probably the best secondary controller to run. But this is geared for rank, so we're assuming solo controller, 5 out of 10. If you happen to have a duo that also plays controller, I'll give it a 10 out of 10, and I'm not joking. Now for the last two, I'm actually going to hit you with a surprise. I think they're tied. This is going to come up mostly to playstyle and how you want to play, so you can pick the controller based on your own thoughts of how you want to position, or if you're more like an aggressive player or defensive player. So Omen and Brim are the last two controllers obviously on the list. So what type of person would you need to be to play Omen? If you like to mix it up, and if you like to be aggressive, Omen is your pick. The constant ability to teleport from different places on the A site makes him a really good A site anchor. As well as the fact that Paranoia literally covers the entire short A push and really halts any sort of presence here. His smokes are really great for defending in comparison to Brimstone because look, they actually go really far. You can smoke hookah from as far as back triple, but if you want to smoke long, you're going to need to come all the way into U-Haul. His retake potential is also quite great just because his flash is really solid. Playing long B and playing off of some sort of contact while sitting in this corner and flashing down B long is also a really great way to use his flash. In general, a lot of options for bind for Omen. But notice how a lot of it also requires on you hitting your shots. Some of the flash angles just aren't as strong, and the one I want to bring up is the one that I mentioned before, which is the U-Haul one. While it does cover the entire area, you have to remember that the meta is very important. Jets and raises now commonly satchel and dash to this area, and if they're this close, your flash actually does very little. Because it's a near sight swinging into them, they'll still be able to see you, and it generally doesn't get usually as much value as you'd like compared to something like a Sky or a Breach flash. So holding U-Haul is still likely going to depend on you being able to hold anyone swinging out this way, and you being able to get that one-hit headshot as soon as possible. He doesn't have as much of a hard lockdown as agents like Viper or Brim or even Astra because the abilities don't stall them at the choke. Only thing he has is his flash, and once that flash is gone, if you didn't capitalize on it, you're essentially just playing around just raw aim duels or maybe the occasional Omen TP outplay, but that's not something you can really guarantee all the time, which is why I don't like relying on it. I'm gonna give Omen's defense a 7 out of 10. The alternative first place to Omen is Brimstone. Now, Brimstone, unlike Omen, has a shorter radius in which he can smoke, which can actually be a big issue, as well as giving you the ability to stall plant by just bouncing it off of something like this, and stalls the default plant. Your smokes last the longest, which is always a benefit on top of Brimstone over other agents. Although it is smaller than something like Astra, it sometimes does give you an advantage if you just hold the top of the box. His ult comes into play a lot more than Omen as well, as Brimstone's ult is just, in most cases, just better. Ulting people off of default, clearing angles like Pocket, as well as all of U-Haul, is really strong on the defense, stops any push, and allows you to mount better retakes than pretty much any other agent. His stim beacon on top of it really just makes your team better. Swinging these angles allows you to just shoot faster, putting you at just a statistical advantage over any of the attackers. His stim beacon also kind of makes up for the fact that his one major weakness is the fact that he can't smoke from both sides very easily because of the distance. But once you get close, using your stim pack plus 2 smokes, you can have an easier time retaking, but obviously retaking is always going to be slightly harder than defending. So with that being said, I think he is a slightly better defender than Omen. I put him at an 8 out of 10. I know Omen has the ability to throw one-ways pretty much anywhere, but the issue is because of the way that rounds usually work out, especially as you get higher up in the elo, explosive hits are more common. Meaning that you don't have time to set up these one-ways. They have to be done prematurely. Brimstone smokes go down instantly, and as they're pushing out showers, if you're trying to do this, it's kind of hard. Usually teams will wait for the one-way to fade out before really dropping the smokes to hit the site. So while one-ways are very cool, I generally don't find them as practical. Players that are smart won't be peeking a one-way, and it's hard to force them to really need to swing into it. So even with the additional one-way peaks, people may disagree with me, but in execution, I haven't seen it work as often as I would like it to. And the good Omens that I do see aren't usually relying on them. Omen on the attack is a little bit better. His flash, it makes it really easy to cover a lot of ground fast. His flash for hookah is a classic. You can flash through the entirety of it. Have your teammates take it with you and you'll be all set. Just be careful of a judge, of course, but it does work and it does clear a lot of ground. Going long and flashing through garden is also a great way to take space. It's good for U-Haul combined with a TP, as well as taking showers and then even just pushing onto site. The moment you spot anyone on the minimap, you know exactly where to flash, and since it just goes through all the walls, it's perfect. Comboing the flash with the Sova is usually so prominent on Bind because Sova is such a good pick. Really makes him a strong agent because once you see someone, you know exactly where to go. And you know exactly how to capitalize because you know they'll be full blind, where they're backing out to, if it scans them, if it's a dart tag, you know how to push them properly. And I think his flash is the best way to capitalize off of info. With the new update, his smokes pop actually quite fast.
Cover going out.
And if you get a pick early enough on the A site, you can always use your TP to get into spots that not as many people really expect, like TPing into heaven. Really, Omen's flash is his saving grace. Although he has one, it's just super powerful, stopping anything from pushes to helping take space to stopping retakes, and it all lies in one ability. That's why I give Omen an 8 out of 10 on the attack. Brimstone, on the other hand, his attack isn't bad. His stim beacons give your team a significant speed boost as well as damage boost with his faster firing rate, and his mollies usually help secure getting onto site or help for a post plant. In combination with his ult, he's also strong for post plant, as well as clearing power positions like U-Haul, which is a super good position that defenders would like to have. But if they're caught in the wrong position, there's no way they can actually make it out, so it could just sometimes net you a free kill. I think the downsides here lie with the fact that Omen usually gets 3 smokes or 4 smokes throughout a round, and Brimstone never has that opportunity. And the issue is that, like, if you throw your 2 smokes like this, if you were to get stalled out, you only have 1 smoke stuck for the next exec, while Omen can just retract and go back to playing slow and then just charge out that 3rd and 4th smoke to re-exec fully. Brimstone doesn't really have this capability. Not to mention, in general, all of his abilities still require him to win the gunfight. And while his stim beacon does give him an advantage in just raw fire rate, as well as movement speed, it's definitely not as potent as something like Omen's flash. A blind played properly means that the other person probably has little to no chance of killing you. Stim beacon doesn't necessarily do that. His molly sometimes just also isn't usable. If they're not hiding in a corner where you know they are, then you just might not find that use, while his flash almost always has a use. Playing Brimstone on the attack really requires you to be more on top of your aim, and on Omen really requires you to be more on top of your utility use. Although they're close enough, just being within 1 point shy of each other. So all in all, if you're a more aggressive player that likes that flexibility that you get from flashes and teleports, and you like these mind games that you might be able to play, then Omen's probably the one for you. But in the case that you like hard anchoring and you like to be able to hard shut down certain areas and working with your team, then generally Brimstone works a little bit better. You can also use this to supplement your weaknesses. For example, if you feel like you're a more attack-sided player with raw aim that works for you, then it might feel like you should be playing Brimstone. If you're already winning these aim duels, then all you need is actually just a slight advantage on the defense side. And your attack side will already be good because you don't need that flash to necessarily win all your duels. If you feel like you're a more defense-sided player, then play Omen. Having that flash utility to kind of win those 1v1s more often might be worth it since you already feel comfortable holding down and anchoring positions. And playing Brimstone would only double down on your strength rather than helping even out your weaknesses. Bind is one of these maps that you have a little more flexibility depending on the playstyle that you want to play, so I recommend choosing whatever you're comfortable with. Although at the moment, I can't really recommend Astra. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, tap that like button for me, and remember to subscribe. If you want to watch controller gameplay, catch me live on Twitch Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 4 PM EST. Come voice your concerns, and let's talk about how you can be a better controller. As always, see you in the next video, and peace out.